Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
You know, when you live with somebody a long time, you think you have them figured out, or you know them, and then you read something like this, and you suddenly realize, and then you're suddenly reminded that they are an unfathomable genius and an exciting mystery. Yeah.
Okay.
I said that on Facebook already, but don't hold me to that. But you know, Mimi Pond, what a name! You know, it has that magic 1-2 punch like Doris Day, Mae West, or Mata Hari. You know, it's a name bound for glory. You know, and what a glory her story is, man. This genius blue-collar kid from San Diego, Oakland art school waitress dropout, transforms herself into the toast of New York City. I mean, this doesn't come along very often, you know. I had all this other information, but the guy already said it all. But, geez. I mean, she went to New York, and suddenly it was like New York Times, National Lampoon, Village Voice, Red Book, Vogue, 17, Valley Girl's Guide to Life, Secret to the Powder Room. Through sheer guts and talent, she reinvented herself and invented herself through comics, essays, and books, and became an hilarious and truth-telling voice of her generation.
You're making me blush.
And then came Hillbilly Wayne, The Simpsons, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Designing Women, Los Angeles, Baby Woodrow, Baby Lulu, Houses, Mortgages, and Schools. And now it's the new century, and it's full of new chapters. I mean, a lot of new chapters, because Mimi has just created a 2-part graphic novel masterpiece. The first one's called Over Easy, and the second one is why we're here tonight. It's called The Customer is Always Wrong. She's unstoppable. Ladies and gentlemen, an unfathomable genius and an exciting mystery, my love, Mimi Pond.
Thank you so much. Isn't he great? He's the greatest. He is absolutely the greatest. I'd like to ask a favor. Could somebody give my dad a seat? He just came in, and he could probably use to sit down. Thanks a lot.
You never mentioned sit down. Okay.
I could ask you guys to do anything right now, and you'd do it. How y'all doing tonight? Is that better? All right. I gotta work this thing. There we go. I think that'll be good. All right. How many of you have read Over Easy? Good. Great to hear. And this is just the continuation of the story. I don't know how many of you know, but hey, Vanessa, another great cartoonist. This story was always meant to be one full story. It was just happened to be divided in 2 parts because it was so overwhelming to think about working on it that Chris Oliveros at Drawn and Quarterly suggested that we split the book into 2 parts, which made it much more manageable. But it was always meant to be one entire story. So with that, I think I'll just start with 2 selections. Okay. I've got 4 months of clippings of my cartoons stacked up. I'm going to submit them to magazines in New York. I've already composed a cover letter. I start making a stack of my best work. Finally sleepy, I go back to bed and drift off. The next morning, I awaken refreshed. Just knowing what I have to do is an enormous relief. I organize my clippings neatly on the coffee table and head out the door. I'm only dimly aware of a strange car at the curb until 3 men emerge and race towards me. It's so unbelievable, it's almost comic. But it's not funny at all. Especially after they force me back into the house. Where is he? Stupid whore! I'm not gonna ask again. Tell us! Who? Where's Neville? Where's Bluto, fat bitch? Ow! I'm such a baby, so unused to physical violence, always been treated so tenderly. I should have been toughened up before. I should have known. Why couldn't I be better prepared? Oh man, now look what you done. You done got her freaked out. I'm fat, I'm bad, I'm dead. Mommy, I love you. I don't want to die. Bitch, all we want is Bluto and your boyfriend Neville. I couldn't find nothing else. No one else living here. Neville, holy shit. I don't know why I didn't just direct him next door, but then it comes to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't fuck with us. We know you're Neville's girlfriend. Wham! Oh! Somehow this strikes a nerve. I'm not anyone's girlfriend. I don't have a boyfriend. I don't know who you're looking for, but it's not me. I'm a cartoonist. This makes them laugh. You too. You mean like Saturday morning? Hey man, I like that Speedy Gonzales. He cracks me up. Not animation, like comic strips for newspapers. Oh yeah? What newspapers? By some miracle. Here. The Spectator, dude, your favorite. Hey, let me see. Behind him, out the window, Camille leaves her house. Hey, I know this cartoon. This is good, man. You do this? You're funny. She does good. Julio, you didn't find nothing? Nada. You know, man, I do cartoons. Is it hard to get into newspapers, man? Because I got this idea about this drug dealer who's a superhero. Perfecto, we ain't got time for that shit. Hey, you like the Freak Brothers? And who's that other dude, Art Crumb? That's some wild shit, man. Come on, man, we're wasting time. Tito finds out, he's gonna fuck us up. You don't tell nobody. We can always come back. Don't scare her, man. She's an artist. Shut up. After they leave, I'm almost giddy. I pick up the phone. But when I hear Oakland police, I hang up. What you do before you call the cops. Laszlo's poem. I should tell him first. He'll know what to do. I need to warn Camille. I wash my face. I'm still alive. I can't understand suddenly why my face seems so puffy. Then my breath comes haltingly. I start to sob. I crumple to the tile, racking sobs, sharp inhaling breaths, until I'm finally able to stop. So that's one selection. But wait, there's more. Oh, oops. Okay. I decide I need a new point of view. To that end, I've made some new friends. They're customers, but they're nothing like most of the people around here. They fascinate me. Phyllis, it turns out, is really friendly. I love your dress. It's so Dust Bowl. Even though I'm a waitress and they obviously have money, she seems eager to be my friend. We don't want anyone but you to wait on us. Phyllis and Mitchell address each other in a very specific, stoned, hippie, sing-songy baby talk, as though they're trying very hard to be the rock and roll Nick and Nora Charles. We need to go get our chakras adjusted again, Munchie. Boo-boo, wow, you are like psychic. Seriously. I should be repelled. Instead, I have to find out more about them. They seem to have always just gotten back from Maui. You haven't been? You have to go. They have front row seats for the Grateful Dead on New Year's Eve. Amazing! They buy all their clothes at Wilkes Bashford. I'm going through a big Calvin Klein thing right now. It's true. Neither appears to have a regular job. When they express an interest in seeing my work, of course I show them my slides. Far out. Incredible. It's like Diebenkorn meets Hopper. This is exactly what I've been waiting for someone to say. Do you have a gallery? Do you think if I had a gallery, I'd still be working here? Mitchell, you know what we should do? We should buy some of Madge's drawings. They agree to come over to see my work that very afternoon. After showering and changing out of my work clothes, I arrange my favorites around the living room. Everything seems suddenly very shabby. What a cute place! I know she's just being polite. Oh, wow, the colors really glow. I know why Mitchell likes that one. It's not true, I just like the colors. He likes it because it says drugs. Huh, I know. I don't know what they're talking about. Let's do some Coke. Phyllis, oh, can I just close these? Oh, wow. Where'd you get these crazy curtains? A few lines later, pretty soon we're motor-mouthing it on a variety of topics. From thrift stores, to lamps of the 1950s, to just what an incredible artistic genius I am. Phyllis and Mitchell buy 3 pastel drawings for $200 each and pay me in cash. This calls for another toot. Then they decide I should join them at Berkeley's fanciest restaurant, Chez Panisse, for dinner. They leave and I find myself in a whirlwind of coked-out excitement. This puts me $600 closer to the $2,000 I've decided I will need to move to New York. By the time I meet them at Chez Panisse, the coke has worn off. I'm exhausted. During a lag in the conversation, Mitchell, what do you do? What do I do? What do I do, Phyllis? Mitchell's in sales. That's it, sales. How'd you guys meet? I was standing in line for Steely Dan tickets at the Fillmore East. He had hair down to his ass. So did she. I was thinking, who's this foxy chick? And she asked if she could cut in front of me. I only did it because not only was he cute, he looked like he had drugs. And she was right. I have a feeling this is not the first time they've related this. I'm going to the bathroom. Madge, come with me. I haven't had this much blow since I started working in the restaurant. This must be so expensive. It's okay. Mitchell kind of deals it, you know? That's like his job. But don't tell anyone, okay? Now the evening seems young again. They decide I should come up to their home in the Oakland Hills. Do you like Tom Petty? Sure. Let's have some more champagne. Would you like to see my collection of antique textiles? Sure. They're in a wall safe in Mitchell's office. We have to wear protective gloves. This one's over 800 years old. It looks like the most worn-out pot holder I've ever seen. It's like holding history in your hands. It was woven by Persian nomadic tribeswomen of the 13th century. How do you get a hold of something like this? Oh, there's dealers out there for everything, not always strictly legal. I expect to see more brownish bits of old rug, but instead, Mitchell doesn't like me to get into his good stuff, but how can I resist? How can I resist? Why would I? My teeth feel like they're vibrating. Soon I feel superhuman. Suddenly, Phyllis gets confessional. I've thought about leaving Mitchell. I know he goes to whores sometimes. The last time I found out about it, I told him I was leaving him, and he took me to Wilkes-Bashford, and I got like 10 pairs of Maud Frisons. What are Maud Frisons? Huh, shoes, really expensive shoes. I think it really freaked him out. I can't believe she's telling me this stuff. I realize suddenly Phyllis is waiting for me to share some equally lurid secret. I can't match that, so every boyfriend I've ever had buys me books instead of shoes. Where am I going wrong, Phyllis? You are so funny. Do you consider yourself a humorist first or an artist? I'm taken aback. No one has ever called me a humorist before. I'm simultaneously flattered and dismissive. We are both so high. Our intimate moment, thank God, has passed. Let me show you something else. So Mitchell bought me this set of antique Limoges. Nice. It is nice. White, simple, elegant, edged in gold. The gold, I think it's kind of tacky, so I've been trying to scrape it off. I look down to see this. Just that took me like 3 hours. Service for 12. It's a project. Oh, wow, is that the time? I have to work tomorrow. You do? Oh. She calls upstairs. Darling, Madge is going home. She has to work tomorrow. She says this like she thinks it's funny. You know why we call each other honey and darling? Why? Because there's so many worse things we could call each other. Oh, Mitchell looks like, for all the world, like a 50s dad, Ozzie Nelson, the coke dealer. Good night, Madge. And that's it. Thank you. So, where do we go from here? Questions? Would you help me field questions, Wayne?
This is Mabel Brown. She's a good girl. Come on, it's a real-life cartoonist, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to a real-life cartoonist.
Janice, yes.
Maybe, why don't you tell us how long this took you to do, because it's quite an amazing effort and book, and all what goes into it is.
Okay. Well, I initially conceived of it. Well, I'll tell you, from the day I went to work in this restaurant in 1978, I knew this was a story that just lodged itself in my gut, and it just wasn't going to go away. And I didn't know what the story was for a very long time. I'm sorry, what? Oh. and for years, I kicked around notes and lists of characters and, certain episodes I remembered, and nothing was happening. And then finally, there was a certain inciting incident that happened that made it crystal clear exactly what was going on, and I don't want to give it away, but it made it easier to begin on it. And by that point, I lived in Los Angeles, and I had thought about doing it as a screenplay, but I'd lived here long enough to know that even if I wrote a screenplay, the possibility of it being produced was slim to nothing. And then I thought, well, I couldn't possibly do it. I'm a cartoonist, but I couldn't possibly do it as a graphic novel, because that would be crazy. That would just be nuts. That's like no. So I decided I would approach it as a conventional piece of fiction. So I did do that, and I started in about 1998, and that took me off and on, because we were raising two small children, about 5 or 6 years. And I gave it to my agent, and he couldn't sell it. And eventually I had to break down and realize that it wanted to be a graphic novel. So starting in about 2008, I began working on it, on pages of the graphic novel. And in 2009, I showed it to Tom Devlin at Drawn and Quarterly, and they agreed to publish it. So then, from 2008 to last year, I was actively drawing. I was able to get a lot more done after both our kids were out of the house.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, in that time, I have been doing projects all over the country. I travel around and do these big installations at museums and art spaces, and Mimi goes with me, and she brings the whole thing with her, and she's either off in a studio space that we have got for her on the installation side, or she's back at the hotel room working her ass off. So she's like, it's practically like we're on the high seas, and she's like, still drawing and drawing and drawing. So we have been art vagabonds since 2009, and she brings her comics stuff, and I do my sculpture stuff.
York, Pennsylvania, Shreveport, Louisiana, Wichita, Kansas, Nantucket. Key West. Key West, that's right.
Captiva Island,
right.
The Robert Rauschenberg
residency.
That thing has been drawn all over the country.
I can recommend this as a way to get work done, because if you go away someplace where there's nothing to do but work, the chances are that you will get work done, especially in a place like Shreveport or Wichita, where you're like, the options are decidedly limited.
And these are grim situations sometimes. It's not easy working in a hotel room. Try it sometime. It takes guts.
Gee, really?
Yeah. Fortitude.
So I would say like a good, 16 years off and on. Yes, Aaron.
So what I liked about the first book, and just from what I heard just now, was how you captured the cadence and the vocabulary of that time period. So I was wondering, did you take notes? Or, because, I was alive at that time, and I forget So I find it really fun to like get back into it. So how did you?
Well, a lot of what I was doing was making a lot of trips back to Oakland and visiting with friends who I had worked in the restaurant with, who all of them had stories that they were very generously shared with me. And I also had a correspondence going with the real life Laszlo. And he, after I left for New York I actually left for New York in 1982. He and I corresponded, and he told me about all this crazy stuff that was happening in the restaurant. So I also lifted some of those stories as well. So, but you know, there's just something. I mean, anyone who lived through that times knows how different it was. That people talked differently and used decidedly what we would consider politically incorrect terms of many kinds. And that's just the way it was. You know, you can't go back in time and chide these people. It's just the way it was.
And what's the real name of this place?
Oh, it's Mama's Royal Cafe in Oakland at 40th and Broadway.
It's still a great restaurant.
Still a great restaurant.
Incredible breakfast.
But it's about to be sold. So I'm not sure when the new owners are taking over, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. But you should get there. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have you considered doing an audiobook of it?
Oh, thanks. Well, I think
so much to the pictures.
well,
Pictures.
you mean like read along with?
Just listening to it.
Well, then you'd miss out on all the visuals, though.
Did you
That's an interesting concept, though, of separating the text from the images.
Make it a novel anyway.
Well, that just points out how totally integrated the text and the images are, and what a unique medium comics are. You know, you can't break it down. You know, it's this special alchemy that it can only happen on the page, you know.
Vanessa.
It comes out better.
I think that she raises a really interesting question, and I know that you were working from a script while you were writing the book. And
Well, I was working from the novel I wrote.
well, that's,
Yeah.
I think that, how did you, it seems like a lot of work in itself just to translate it from a prose document into a comics document, because there is so much that has to be expressed visually.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had to go through pages, paragraphs of lovingly crafted descriptions of things and just go, I'm going to draw that. I mean, and in my head, I already knew what everything looked like anyway. So that part was kind of easy because I'd already visualized it in my head, and then like the, writing and describing it was actually more work than, in some ways, than drawing it.
Did you find yourself editing things? Because I've often thought about this with fiction, where a fiction writer could just say, he brought out the most beautiful vase I'd ever seen or something. And if you do it in a comic, then you have to actually draw the most beautiful, to somehow indicate that it's so, for the things that you just left out, you remember leaving out because you're like, I don't want to draw that.
No, not so much that. There were a couple other peripheral characters that got tossed by the side of the road that weren't really necessary. There were too many boyfriends.
Too many parties, too many pals.
You were a waitress.
Glenn and his wife Martha are original customers of mine from Mama's Royal Cafe. And what?
You were always wrong. I want to ask you something about the process. I remember when you were doing Over Easy, correct me if I have this wrong, but you were well into it when you discovered that you had to do the color separations as a separate.
And I wasn't really that far into it. I was only about 30 pages into it.
30, that's all.
Well, out of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you have to do the same process on this one?
Yeah. which made it, I had to separate the line work from the green tones,
Which is watercolor.
which is watercolor, and I don't work on a computer, so I had to do it with a LED light box with the Bristol board drawing underneath and a piece of thin watercolor paper on top of that, and in the dark, and lay in these tones and just like hope I was getting it right.
So it's really twice as many pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you decide on that color? Was there a
I just liked it.
your skin?
Yeah, it looked good with my skin because no, I just liked it. I don't know. It just felt right. Yeah.
Are any of the fictionalized people in the book, any of them contact you?
Uh-oh.
Even though it's fiction?
No,
Good question.
I would say
I'm kidding.
99% of everyone has loved it so far. Of course, they haven't seen the second half, which the customer is always wrong, which gets a lot darker. So I'll have to get back to you on that. But they loved the first book.
They sure did.
Yeah, back here in the red. You're going to have to speak up.
What made you take on writing and stuff like that? What made you say pages?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Why is the book so many pages?
Why is it so? That's just what the story just sort of told me what I had to do. So, you know, it just, in terms of pacing it, it just wanted to be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like storyboarding a movie. I mean, you know,
It is.
yeah.
I mean, you practically made it into a movie, you know? You wrote a novel, then you made a movie out of it.
It is, doing a graphic novel is very much like being your own director, screenwriter, cinematographer, set decorator,
Casting agent.
Actors and actresses, costumer. You're the whole thing. So, which is, you know, more. I would have to say more gratifying than working in movies, because so many, you know, most things never even get made, and then when they do, they're a horrible struggle. On the other hand, if anyone wants to, you know, option this, yeah.
Keep yourself motivated when you're, you know, the whole crew one and also taking a couple of years to.
Well, I mean, you know, it just was, this is kind of like the project of a lifetime for me. I mean, there's more motivation in this than in many other things I could have chosen. This is like the thing I had to do before I died. In fact, there were a number of times where I found myself like in close calls with like almost traffic accidents, and I'd think, oh my God, I've got to finish this book before I die. So it was just very important to me. So I was, you know, I've always just been very motivated with it. But
Well, she's always been motivated. She's a very hard worker.
Well,
Tenacious.
doing a story like this also, it's, you know, it has a momentum of its own. So, I learned a great deal about discipline while I was working on it. So it kind of taught me how to be, you know, how to sit down and do it every day.
Being chief cook and bottle washer in creating this whole tone in this enormous project, how much of a role did your editors or editor play, and as well as beloved family, I'm guessing, who maybe read through the pages? And
Well, before Drawn and Quarterly saw it, I had a number of early readers, including my Wayne and some friends and my book agent, who all chimed in and helped shape the story originally. But once it got to the point where I was doing the drawing, you know, Drawn and Quarterly, they just stayed out of my way, which was great.
Yeah, it's really great.
I've had a lot of different experiences with editors through my life, and the best ones can, you know, point out things that weren't obvious to you, and, or, you know, like, take this panel and switch it over here, or like, no, this is the punchline here, and you go, oh yeah, right. And I appreciate that. And then there's, you know, editors who don't know what they're doing and do all kinds of dumb stuff, but honestly, they just let me be.
Yeah, Johnny Quarterly is amazing. They are an artist's friend. They really are.
And going back and telling me stories, were there things that you discovered or rediscovered about your younger self that surprised you?
Well, I was pretty stupid. I was like monumentally stupid. I took a lot of unnecessary chances and slept with the wrong people, and you know, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't, you know, do that. For sure. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was like, my own naivete astonished me. Yeah.
Had you sold something to the New Yorker before you moved there?
No, not the New Yorker, the National Lampoon.
National Lampoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherry Flanagan was the cartoon editor there, and she became an important mentor to me, and she was the one who urged me to move there. I actually went to visit a couple of times and kind of like got a foot in the door, and, you know.
What year was that?
That was 81.
Was she trotting by?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big deal back then, getting in the National Lampoon. That was like getting in Saturday Night Live.
Right.
You know, that was like hot stuff.
John Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And P.J. O'Rourke was a huge fan of Mimi's and was one of our champions there at the Lampoon.
Yes.
What is the period of time it covers?
1978 to 1982.
78 to 80. Okay. So I have this theory called the art of the task, where when an artist commits to doing like a page a day of something, or, you know, what you've done, full-length commitment, like our Crumb did with Genesis, like Matt Kish did with Moby Dick, illustrations for every page, type of thing. That you start out doing the task, but then at some point it switches and the task does you. And I'm just wondering what the book kind of, could you talk more about what it taught you, like that relationship that you have with the art and how it changed it at all?
It taught me to have more discipline, and it taught me more about pacing. And how to give a story the room it needs. I've been doing some pieces for the NewYorker.com recently, and they're just web comics, and just right after I finished working on The Customer's Always Wrong, I started doing some pieces for them, and I think the great thing about doing web comics is that you don't have any limitations on the size of how long something could be, and I've been used to working in print as long as I did. Used to being very constrained by having like only so much room to work with. Like I was doing cartoons for the LA Times opinion page on Sundays, and it was like this big. There's like 8 panels at the best, and you had to like jam all your ideas into that. And with a web comic, you could just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And the great thing was that I was able to like tell a story exactly as long as it needed to be. And working on The Customer's Always Wrong really taught me how to do that, how to like give air around scenes and pauses and important little emotional moments and stuff like that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you do a lot of thumbnailing or
Yes.
storyboarding?
Oh yeah. I started out doing. I had the manuscript, the original written version, and I worked on tracing paper because it's cheap and it's easy to erase. And I would do pages on that in pencil, and mostly, I could erase it over and over because it's easy to erase and it doesn't get all gum, hole in it from erasing it too much. So I have huge stacks of tracing paper, pencil sketches of all the pages that are in a box.
How do you know when to stop? I mean, you have so much to tell.
Well, the story was already written, so it had already, it just, that was like the roadmap, and then visually, I just always knew in my head what it looked like. So it just kind of told me what it wanted. Yeah.
What's next?
I don't know.
I keep saying, and a lot of people say the same thing, you should follow Madge to New York City. And your response is there's not enough.
There's not enough drama. I got to New York and where's the dog? Oh, she's out.
But there's enough drama, and it's an.
I'll just say I was much happier because I met Wayne White.
Yeah, but
and I wasn't like a club kid. I wasn't. People think, oh, Madge is out like partying with Jean-Michel Basquiat. Like, no, I pretty much was in bed by 10.
But it could be a chronicle of the times in a way. It was a fascinating time, the early '80s, mid '80s.
Madonna stole my
Village. That's right.
Bitch stole my look.
There you go. There's one gag right there.
There's the title. Bitch stole my look.
That's funny. Yeah, because Madonna was living in our neighborhood, and Mimi used to do the cute little
the
tie
chiffon
up
bow in my
all
hair, big chunky jewelry. And all of a sudden, I saw this video. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Yeah.
So I assume your kids are close to the age of the character in the book?
Yeah, they're 22 and 25.
Are they like, when am I meeting my coke dealer?
I don't want to know. No, you know what? They're both so much smarter than we were.
They're both, smart kids, and they're not crazy.
Right, but they learned. I mean, this must be somewhat like a new angle of your story.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their mistakes they make in their youth and their stories that happen to them in their youth. So it's for them it'll be something else. But I still think that they're both have a lot more common sense than either one of us had. Yeah,
way more than me, I think.
It's also, I also just related to that question. I think also it's kind of an interesting perspective of the young person that is kind of in like a crazy scene and maybe sort of it, but not necessarily. I mean, Madge is an observer in a lot of ways, and she's sort of like a moral compass in a lot of ways for a lot of the characters in the book. And
well, I definitely wasn't as fucked up as a lot of the people that work there.
I just think it's interesting as from a storytelling perspective, because I know that for me, I'm a cartoonist, and I like to kind of be in a lot of situations that broaden my perspective and challenge my experience, but because of my own personality or a lot of different reasons, I don't necessarily participate to the fullest extent as much as the people that I'm surrounded by. And Madge kind of.
Well, Madge is braver than I was.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Not really.
Well, it's interesting because it's like how do you tell a story? Because you have to have some kind of coherent viewpoint into what you're observing, as well as being a part of not so separate that you don't know where you are.
Well, Vanessa Davis is like the queen of autobiocomics, in case you don't know. But Vanessa, it's a one-word answer: fiction. You can make shit up. You can lie, and it's okay, because it's fiction. You might want to try it. It's fun. Yeah.
So it is a work of fiction, or?
Oh, it's a work of fiction. It's absolutely.
There's a lot of truth
It's
stuff.
inspired by true life. It's as they say in the TV movies, inspired by true life events.
It's a romance. What's that term?
Romana Clef.
Romana Clef.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of other books and comics that you were reading and getting influence from while you were making this?
I'll tell you the one book that finally made me realize that I could do this was Alison Bechdel's Fun Home. It was like it was finally the one graphic novel I looked at where I was like, oh yeah, like that. So that was very helpful, because I was looking at a lot of stuff, but nothing resonated until I saw that. And then since there have been more stuff that I find that I relate more to, like Vanessa's work. It's a huge genre, so there's a vast spectrum of stuff, but I like sort of, literary stories, based on true life experiences, more than, you can go in there's all kinds of graphic novels, it's the sky's the limit, but I like the things that are sort of based in reality.
But it's also dialogue-based, so maybe not option for a screenplay, but it certainly could be like Allison's show.
Yeah.
Musical.
It's a screenplay.
Or both, yeah.
Yeah, both.
Sure. So, yes. I can barely hear you.
Designing the characters,
Uh-huh.
when you're drawing the characters out, like making them, how long was that process?
I don't recall exactly. I remember knowing that it was important for me to get all the characters down before I began. I don't know, a few weeks of just like, there were some people who looked like, or definitely based on real life people, and then there were other characters. There were like some short order cooks who were like amalgams. There were so many people that worked there. If I'd done it as nonfiction, it would have been like a Russian novel. There were like, dozens of short order cooks, and dozens of waitresses and busboys and drug dealers, just went on and on. So you had to like smash like 10 short order cooks into like 3 of them. So, and you use whatever qualities they have that best serve your story. So, some of them are just completely made up, but have the spirit of like 7 or 8 different people. Are we done, children?
Yes. Thank you, Mimi Pond.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.